Hi everyone, welcome to Dear Banff, the show for PR and marketing pros like you. Hosted by Beck Bamberger of BAM. BAM is a communications agency that believes stories move the world. We move stories forward for technology-driven brands that challenge, change, and create entire industries. Today on the Dear Banff podcast, we're talking with Paul, head of communications at Kabbage. Paul has been a tech PR pro for 9+ years, with broad experience across consumer tech, digital marketing, and digital media. He's responsible for all corporate communications for Kabbage, which helps small businesses thrive. Let's dive in.
In the realm of such things, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Kabbage. You guys are pretty well known. It's in the fintech space specifically. So first, I would love to hear, Paul, 60 seconds on what Kabbage is about.
Yeah.
60 seconds-ish, take it however you wish.
Sure, Beck, just thanks again for having me. This is great. So Kabbage is a cash flow platform for small businesses. We use data and technology to help small businesses grow. And, we really believe small businesses are the drumbeat of this economy. They represent 99% of all companies, half of all jobs, half of the non-farm GDP in this country. They really represent such an enormous part of our communities and just how this country, just how this country is built. And, we use technology and automation to empower them to build great companies. So we have, we offer loans, business analytics, payments processing, and checking accounts also. And so that's a bit on Kabbage. We're a cash flow management platform for small businesses.
Mm-hmm. I think so many times too, especially in the VC realm, people forget how massive small business SMB is in this country specifically. And it's always about get the enterprise deal. It's the Fortune 100 clients, all that stuff. But I'm like, even though it's all sliced so thin across all the SMBs, that is who employs America. That is America.
Oh, 100%.
The vast majority.
Yeah. And it's what's so funny because even the government defines them so poorly. The definition of a small business is anybody under 500 employees, but the vast majority it's crazy, right? I think it's something like 80 or 90% of all small businesses have fewer than 20 employees. And so it's really the small businesses that we focus on, the smallest. And frankly, a lot of these businesses are the ones that banks and other financial service providers it's not that they don't want to serve them. It's just so difficult and costly to do so. Especially when you have to get into verification and, the risk profile, and these businesses are small, and I get it, but technology really enables us to do that really well.
Mm-hmm. Tell us, what are you most proud of accomplishing here in this last, let's say, 12 months, especially in this year of COVID, as we know?
I really credit Kabbage, our leadership. So I'll put this into perspective. So major banks, Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, Bank of America, for every roughly 790, 800 employees they have, Kabbage has one employee. And when COVID hit and all the shutdowns across the nation happened and small businesses were forced to shut their doors and there was all these question marks and unknowns around what was going to happen with them, obviously the Congress passed the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program. And prior to that, Kabbage had never issued an SBA loan before. We had never pledged any loans through E-Tran or through the SBA, and they deputized fintechs, Kabbage being one of them. They only deputized a handful to support this enormous what became the largest financial relief program ever in the history of the administration, to the tune of what was it, $650 billion, something along those lines. In Kabbage, within 4 months, we put out nearly 300,000 loans to small businesses, roughly around $7 billion. We estimate that helped preserve 945,000 jobs in the economy. And we became the second largest lender in the nation. We outperformed Chase Bank, which is the largest bank in America. We outperformed Wells Fargo and a slew of others. And, it's just unbelievable what this team accomplished within that time frame, given our resources. And it just a really great testament to grit and really staying focused on what's best and what's right for small businesses. We converted our technology and did a lot of great things very quickly, made quick decisions. The leadership, Rob and Catherine, they always talk about how kind of in the throes of that crisis, we never knew what exactly was going to stick. Was it going to be, option A or option B to get us to, our finish line of where we wanted to, of what we wanted to accomplish. And, they just found multiple paths to every single, outcome that we needed to achieve. And gosh, I mean, it was this just enormous Herculean effort. And I'm so proud of what this company did. And, obviously so grateful to be a part of something that helped so many small businesses, keep their doors open and keep their employees paid. And so that, I mean, by far was a crowning achievement, not only for Kabbage, but something I'll never forget from a professional standpoint. It was amazing.
Wow. What a time to be inside that company too. Comms for this while those big banks were floundering in massive ways. Big time. Well, speaking, maybe it's connected to this then. What's your favorite way to tell a story right now, since this is about storytelling?
To this day, and I would say the past, few years, I've always been fascinated with a data backstory. And I'm sure many people say that, but I mean, if you can tell a strong story and back that up with hard data directly from the small businesses, in our case, the customers that you're working with, compare that to, kind of how I just described, comparing ourselves to these massive, massive banks who have trillions of dollars in assets compared to what Kabbage has, which is, a fraction of that, to still, to show that comparison and show that success in that way through data is, I mean, it's always going to be more powerful. Reporters are always going to appreciate that more. There's something more, it's just grounded in more truth and facts, and it's a win-win for everybody. And, from Kabbage's standpoint, data and automation has always been a core function of what we do and how we've differentiated amongst, not only traditional financial providers, but also other folks in our field. And, it only behooves us to use that data to tell those great stories. And that's what I really focused on these past few years.
Data's king.
It is. It is very helpful.
This is true. Well, let's get into our advice section here. We got all these questions submitted in. Let's see what we can solve. First one here. Dear Banff, my team has been working on a brand revamp for one of our clients who saw a whole lot of negative press right around the same time COVID-19 hit. We just went out with our first announcement and have yet to see any backlash. That said, we received an inbound media opportunity from a reporter who often writes negative stories. We offered to provide responses to her questions, which were about my client's IA technology, so artificial intelligence, via email so we can control the message. When she sent over the questions, we realized she was trying to dig up dirt. Could we decline the interview altogether, or should we provide high-level responses to the questions we feel comfortable answering? What's the best move to help ensure this isn't a terrible piece that we're partaking in?
Yeah, I love this question. It's actually, I faced a lot of this.
Yes, I was going to say.
Even at Kabbage, when this all first started, there was a lot of questions around Kabbage being a fintech and if we were authorized to be an SBA lender, and there was a few investigative reporters that reached out. I mean, I think in these instances, there's always going to, agencies, your client, your founder, your leadership at your company, there's always going to be different, there's a spectrum of appetite of how much people want to or do not want to participate in these stories. In this case, I think you have to, it's difficult to give exact advice based on the context. I don't know what the thing is that company is trying to investigate. If it's true, is it not true? Is it something that you need to debunk, or is it something that you actually need to own up and say, yeah, unfortunately, this is something that happened, and this is these are the steps that we're taking to remedy this situation. Maybe that's the approach you need to take. But in my perspective, it's your story. At the end of the day, they're writing about your story, and I will always firmly believe that I want to be a part of that. And so, even when we had those investigative reporters and folks reach out that were obviously digging into a negative story, we always participated. I mean, they might have sent over 20 questions and I answered 7 of them, whatever that case, whatever those numbers were. You don't answer all of them if you don't feel like you can, or legally you can, things, there obviously reporters are going to ask questions because it's their job. And it's also your job to protect the company and do what's right. But at the same time, I mean, gosh, yeah, I mean, I would consider it, get all the facts, think about, it's always helpful to run through the scenarios. Like, okay, if we answered it this way, what is that going to look like? Let's talk it out. Let's hash it out. What if we answer this way? What does that look like? And sometimes that often can help you lead to, your answer of, okay, let's not answer this one. Let's definitely answer this one in this way. It's an appetite of kind of risk you want to take on, what kind of exposure you want to put yourself out there, but it's your story. So I'd say do it.
I'm on the same page. Do it, because so often if you don't respond, this is kind of the no comment issue. That says so much. That seems to allude.
It indicates too negative, yeah.
Exactly. And it seems to allude you're covering, you're hiding, you're not disclosing on purpose. And that type of response only gets them typically to dig further.
Yeah.
Because now they're like, oh, wait, oh, whoa, what? Oh, I didn't get an answer there. Well, let me go over here. Let me try to go over here. Let me go over there. And it's just going to spiral into this digging trenches from usually this type of reporter. Then they might be on an investigative team. So this is their job. They're here to dig the dirt. And if you squash that, you say, hey, here's all the dirt. And I don't mean dirt as in like what they're looking for, but here's all the answers. Here's what it is. This is what I can tell you legally. That usually can suffocate a story, because they'll get those and go, well, I guess there's nothing here. And they might keep digging of sorts, but if you're participating with them, then a lot of times you'll mitigate the fire. It's almost like feeding the fire. If you're just dumping some water on it,
I agree.
It's going to snuff it out.
Yeah,
and how that works.
Yeah, and one story that comes to mind for me, what was helpful is that a lot of her questions were sort of based on falsehoods or preconceived notions or assumptions, and setting the record straight. I was actually grateful for her that she did this. That every time she still wrote the thing that she was going to say or assumed, or the number that she had wrong. She still published that, but then followed up with my answer. And it still, overall was not a great story, but I was still grateful for the fact that she let those responses have the daylight that, I was very specific, like, if you're going to do this, you have to clarify with this and this and that. And she was fair in that sense.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's a good point in terms of just the ramifications. So let's say the story does come out, but you've been a helpful person to them throughout the process. And so if there's a factual error, they're probably more likely to go and say, oh, you know what? Let me go correct that, since that is an issue factually or anything like that. They're more likely to play ball. Yeah.
And then obviously I would over communicate with your internal team or your client. Yes. Like, this is what we expect. This is how was this, these were the questions. This is how we answered them. We don't know, this article is going to come out whenever time it comes out, but I would just set expectations and be sure there's no surprises when it does hit. 'Cause that's when usually these articles can get, maybe you as the comms person in more of a hot seat.
Next question here. Dear Banff, I'm wondering how to navigate what seems to be a budget monetary concern. We have a long-term client that has been working with a freelancer on the marketing team for some time. Now they want to bring on this freelancer on full-time, which they mentioned several months ago as the goal. What's news, however, is that this freelancer, now full-time, that will eliminate the need for us, the full-stack marketing and comms agency. I've insisted that one marketing person who will lead everything in the marketing realm for this client certainly can't do all the needed 18 things like newsletters, SEO, content, PR, client relations, social media, and more. But this doesn't seem to be working. Advice here.
It sounds to me that the client probably knows that, and it's, we're in the middle of a pandemic and it is a budget concern, and they're like, yeah, I get it, but I have to cut costs. That's what I hear when I hear that. But at the same time, I think, the freelancer, that's an interesting, so the freelancer, if you've been working with that freelancer for however long, they also know the value you bring. And so I almost would have the conversation with that freelancer and get a better understanding of, their perspective of knowing what they might be asked to take on going into this if the agency is let go, and maybe have them be an advocate for you. Because, again, I think it goes back to setting expectations with that client or your leadership team is, if that's fine. I understand budget is a concern, but at the same time, you have to understand the trade-off that like of what you're going to have to let go given this. And, if the freelancer can even advocate on your behalf in that sense, it just depends on goals, and obviously budget is an issue, but that's what I hear when I hear that is it's not so much they're not happy with your services. It sounds like they just need to cut costs. What do you think, Beck?
This is, we've seen this before. I will say that.
Right.
Yeah. And oftentimes if this outside person, the freelancer, is your ally and is like, oh my gosh, I have to rely on this other partner, you, the agency. I'm wondering here if they know what you're alluding to, which is like, are they aware of now this massive change that's happening? Because if I was that freelancer and I was like, oh, cool, I got this new job. Oh, wait. Now this is my job? You mean I got to do all of this and I no longer have this other partner on board to help execute all this other stuff? I wouldn't be down for that job. I'd be like, whoa, no, I'd rather, that'd be a hard decision, because that freelancer might not be up to snuff with saying, oh yeah, let me take all that on. That's great. And this full-time role. Ooh. So I think you need to have, depending on the relationship, of course, a conversation with this freelancer person so that to see if they're aware of what's happening and that they know. I've seen a situation before where they did not know that, and that was not discussed. Right. And that totally changed their perception of how great this perhaps offer is full time, when really it's like, well, now you're just going to do triple the work.
Right.
And you're on our payroll. So now we don't get that freelance money because you're on our payroll. And oh, by the way, your job exploded into triple the amount of time, the expectation is. So this is difficult. And then from the client perspective, this is an unsophisticated client in a sense. I totally get the budgetary aspect, but what it's alluding to perhaps is that they're not aware of just the amount of that work that's going on. So the solution isn't, half a person plus half a person, I can just roll that into one person. I'll just do that. That'll save me money or something. It's like, well, that doesn't really take place. For example, you, Paul, you're director of comms at Kabbage. I'm sure you have other resources, other people helping you out, because you can't touch all the things. Yeah,
of course. I mean, you're one person. I in this instance, I wonder who is one that's giving the agency the directive. Is it the decision maker, or is it, the head of comms who's getting that direction from, their CRO or something like that? Can you talk to the person that is making that decision and, be sure that they're clear on what exactly is going to transpire. And also, I would say if 2020 has taught us anything, this is a year of adaptation. And if that company, if that client is still going to, move forward with that choice, is there something you as an agency can adapt to it? Like, okay, great. I understand. We're going to give you a skinny package and give you XYZ things that we know are going to be really critical for you because you have, I don't know, a product launch coming up in the next 2 months. You're going to want to have these things in place. So let's find the middle ground right now. That way, maybe you can just try to salvage a portion of that relationship if it's an important part of your client base.
Yeah. All right, Paul, we got one more question here.
Let's do it.
Dear Banff, I'm in a well-funded startup that is doing great work in the mental health space and in charge of all things marketing, including running their relationship with our PR agency. My problem is the agency just fired my startup. I am so shocked to hear this. Apparently, my CEO said some completely unprofessional and borderline verbally abusive things to the agency on a weekend phone call. I hadn't witnessed this behavior from her before, but now I'm super concerned. I've never had an immediate termination from an agency happen before or go like this. And I really love this agency. I can't help but believe some nasty stuff went down. What should my approach with my CEO be?
I mean, my question is, what'd you do? What'd you say, man? What happened?
But this is the comms person. They don't know. I mean, I guess they could go to the agency. Anyway, you start.
Yeah, I mean, look, what's your relationship with your CEO? Do you have the relationship where you can say, hey, they just fired us. What happened there? And get an understanding, because if it's something egregious, I mean, you're going to want to know that anyway. Was it something that, what if that happened, whatever that conversation was, what if the same thing transpired with reporter or somebody like a partner that then told the reporter, like if there's behavior there that can be a liability, I would want to know about it just so I can, plan for it, maybe make a consideration of, kind of, what I do with this company. But gosh, that stuff, when I was at an agency, we also fired a client once, and the reasoning for that is it was more of like an ethical choice. The CEO was very verbal on social media about his drug use. Ooh. And we just thought this was something that we didn't want to take on, even though we were excited about the company and the technology. It came down to leadership, and he was the key spokesperson for the company, and we thought that was going to be a long-term issue, and so we made that choice too. And it was no knock on the client or the work or the technology. Again, it was just an ethical choice. So I don't know what that CEO said, but I really would want to know what happened.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I always like to say, and my team knows this, that there's always two truths. There's your truth, my truth, and then three truths: your truth, my truth, and the truth. Mm-hmm. And the truth is somewhere on the line between those two others.
Yeah.
But this is egregious, and particularly when an agency, so the agency already has the situation of you guys are paying some amount. So they're already getting, by terminating this, they're getting hurt. They have more to lose in the sense of, okay, well, that's lost revenue out the door, team morale, all the impacts. So in other words, they don't have the upper hand here necessarily. You're the client. So for them to do this, I would imagine, like in our situation, if this was the case, you don't just do that kind of like, we're kind of tired of this client, let's just fire them.
Right.
That's not the luxury you typically have as an agency.
Right.
So already the data point here is, okay, something must have happened at such a scale that this then happened. I mean, you were fired in the sense. So I would definitely go to the CEO. This is a person you work for, and say, we need to have a radical conversation about what happened and see how it goes. I think that's the telling point. Is your CEO going to say, oh my God, I totally lost it. I behaved poorly. It'll never happen again. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it cost us this relationship, and I'm super embarrassed. Is it that, or is it, I have no idea why they did that. This is ridiculous. This is that, I think, will be the telling everything. And then again, data collection. Sounds like this person does have a good relationship with this agency that they really liked. Talk to them too. Talk to them before the CEO. Say, whoa, I wasn't part of this. I just need to know what happened. So then you get that information as well from their perspective. Yeah, it's already a done deal, but then you have further data to truth suss when you go to the CEO.
It is interesting if this went down so abruptly too. If there was a conversation on Saturday and Monday morning, you had an email at 8 a.m. that said this relationship is now terminated, like without a conversation at all with you as the sort of the key relationship. To that agency, that's awfully telling. Oof. Yeah, I'm a juicy one. I want to know what happened.
Get that resume updated. Perhaps, person. Unfortunately. Oh, well, Paul, thank you for being on today. That's all the questions. That's what we got.
Awesome.
I'm a fan of Kabbage. I've been watching you guys grow. It's great to hear you've helped so many of these businesses during this ridiculous year time. So
what a year.
Good for you guys. Thank you for being on. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Dear Banff, the advice podcast for PR and marketing pros like you. Our show was created by BAM, a PR and marketing agency headquartered in San Diego and New York City. The music we're enjoying today was composed by Tiffany Dizon, produced by Daniel Kessner, and played by San Diego Symphony's Art of Alon. If you love this episode of Dear Banff, head to Spotify or Apple Podcasts to leave a review. Or if you have a tough PR and marketing question you'd like us to answer, write to us at bamtheagency.com/Dear Banff. Don't forget the F. We'll be back next Monday with another episode of Dear Banff. Until then,